Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, we talk about sparring hard and when is it the right time to spar hard. I mean, it really comes down to what your intention is and why you're there. I mean, if you're going to be a competitive fighter, if you're going to compete on a full-time circuit, then obviously the game means that you're going to have to basically spar hard at times, right? You're going to have to experience it because when you go into the ring, your opponent's going to literally try and take your head off, so you need to be used to that pressure. But even somebody who competes can't come in every single night and spar hard. So that's why it's important to have a lot of respect in the gym and an understanding that when you spar, the ultimate goal is that we both improve together. I mean, it's about, both of us improving and not just one person. It doesn't help if I come in and I only dominate everybody in my environment. I know that I'm winning, that's great, but how do I improve out of that? The way that I improve out of a sparring experience is by allowing everybody else to grow. That might mean that I might have to handicap myself and not play a certain kind of style of game, or maybe tonight I only use my jab because I know that I can beat these guys, but if I'm only using my jab, they stand a better chance. So I do that, but as they get better, I get better. The bottom line is that to really have a lot of fun in sparring, you need to keep the contact low. That doesn't mean go slow. Of course you can still go fast. You're just taking out the hard knocks. You're not trying to knock each other out. I mean, it's a great sparring session when you've done 10, 12 rounds. Nobody in the session has got a blue eye. Nobody's got a blood nose. Nobody's aching and can't come back tomorrow. So really what you want to do is you want to keep the respect going all the time. There's a misconception when you hear this term thrown around a lot, talk about aliveness, and they think, well, what aliveness means is that you're supposed to go in and tear into each other, and if you're not going balls to the wall every single night, then you're not being true to the art. And that's kind of a misunderstanding of what that concept really is. The idea about performance is that you're always playing a performance game. You're always challenging each other. There's a big difference between challenging somebody and competing. When I'm competing in the gym, essentially my ego is part of that process, and what I'm really trying to do is I'm trying to not look bad, and I want to make sure that everybody knows I'm the alpha male in that environment. So I'm going to step it up and I'm going to try and hurt people. That's essentially what happens when people compete. When I'm in a challenge mindset, I change the game according to the opponent, but I'm making sure that I'm challenged all the time. How do I do that? So I'm sparring this guy, and I realize within the first 30 seconds that he's not going to give me a good run for my money. I know that maybe he's a beginner, he doesn't have a really good skill. What do I gain out of that experience if I just jack him up and knock him out? What I need to do there is remain challenged, not competitive. There's a difference. And so I might handicap myself. I might pull something back, take something away from myself, force me to work only one dimension of my game. All right? Let's say, for example, my weakest game is my runner game. It's something that I'm not really good at. That's a good night to play that. That's a good night to put that into play. Let's play runner tonight. I've got an opponent who's not going to stress me out too much. He's not going to hurt me. And he has my opportunity just to kind of settle back and play. And when you're playing and you're not trying to hurt each other and you're going light, it's amazing. It's like blinkers come off. You have this wide awareness of what's going on around you, and you're able to see more, and that's really what you're trying to do. You're trying to see more opportunities. When you go balls to the wall and you're competitive, you're going to stick to your A game, and ultimately somebody's going to get hurt and you're not going to learn anything.
Welcome to the section on the angler style. Anglers like to work the angles on their opponents. They don't like to come in straight. They may use forward strategy to get the right angle, but they like to strike off their angles off their opponent's body and punches. These styles of fighters tend to like circling a lot. They also like to draw their opponent in by getting them to commit to an attack. When this happens, they use the opponent's forward momentum to get on their side and attack as well.
Now we're looking at the angler style. This is the first strategy that you want to use to develop your angler style. I just want to make sure that you understand this right from the beginning. Angler style to develop is pretty difficult. I think there's something there because, after thousands and thousands of people that I've sparred around the world, it's not very, very common that you come across somebody who's really good at angling. So there may be something there. There might be something to be said for that if you went out and you trained your angler style and you made it really good, you're going to be a formidable opponent because a lot of people wouldn't have seen that. First strategy for an angler style is essentially this. You're going to use attack by drawing to get an angle. Attack by drawing, what that means is that you purposefully create an opening on yourself. It's a bait. When the guy goes for the bait, that's the time that you decide what you're going to do next. For an angler, he's going to use that to get on the side of the opponent, to get the angle. So a couple of ways that you can do this. Two basic ways. One is by you start off being in a good tight structure, and then all of a sudden it kind of looks like you're getting a little bit lazy, and you stick your hand a bit high. Now, immediately what most people do when you go high is guys try to go for the low line. Okay, it's very, very common. Okay, or I can reverse the idea and I can purposely drop my front hand and just kind of expose my head a little bit. Now, again, for an angler, I need to have good timing because I don't want to expose my head and actually get hit. The idea is that I'm exposing my head, that when Nuno goes for my head, that's my time to move. So let's just look at that, what I mean by that. So I'm here, nice and tight, I raise, he goes high, boom, and I get out on the side. Now, it doesn't matter which way I went, because as I moved, I deflected much of that punch, it just kind of went past my stomach. So we'll do that slowly, as he went, boom, there, and I get on the side. Now I've angled off on him, and I'm firing a combination like I normally would. Obviously, I could go the other way, so as he goes, I can move this way, and then work my combination from that side. That's also working the angle. The other variation was, I drop my hand. As he goes high now, I step out. Okay, so watch again. As he goes high, boom, I step out and I fire my combination. Again, like before, I could go as he goes to my face, I can step out this way and then fire my combination. So essentially what you see what I'm doing there is this. I'm creating an opening. I'm letting the guy go for it. When he goes for it, I get an angle. Now, you could be as creative as you like with attack by drawing. These are two of the safest ways to do it because I'm not really giving too much away if I make a mistake. So when I'm doing this, I'm only giving my body away. But if I had to, my hand is still up on my face. All right, when I do this, I'm still protecting my face with my hand and my chin is still in the way. So I'm not really giving anything away. But you'll see guys do this sometimes, which I wouldn't always advocate unless you really have good attributes. But, you know, it works. I might do this, drop both hands. Yeah, what's he going to naturally do? He sees both hands go down, he's going to go for my head. As he goes for my head, boom, that's my time to get on the outside, right? Sometimes you'll see guys do this with their hands up. Right, he goes to the body, okay? As I go high, he goes to the body, bam, I come in and I work combinations. So you could be as creative as you like, but I think those first two are the ones that are really, really effective because they still keep you safe. When you're doing this, you're still safe. Okay, so I'm still safe here. I might have to take that body shot, but I'm still safe if I make a mistake and I don't get out in time. If I do this, I'm still safe because my hand to my chin protects my face. And remember, it's the side of your head when you get hit that knocks you out, right? So you don't want to get hit here. That's why you're keeping your head facing the target. So again, the idea is as he goes low, I get out and I work angle, right? I drop low here, boom, I go out and I work to get an angle. So I'm using the attack by drawing. I'm baiting him in, letting him come to me. Can't do attack by drawing by moving forward. Doesn't work that well. I bait him to come to me, I hang back, and as he goes, I get and I step off and I work my angle.
In this example, Nuno with the black gloves is using attack by drawing in order to get the angle so he can attack and counter-attack with K's punches.
All right, so now we're looking at the second strategy that you want to develop in order to become a good angler. This one is you're going to use your forward pressure a little bit, so stepping forward on your strikes to get the angle. So unlike the attack by drawing you did as an angler where you were hanging back, let him come to you so you can get an angle, this time you're going to have to move forward for this one. Right, so the idea is quite simple. When I'm here, I use my jabs and my crosses, my straight line attacks. This is really important. Don't try and do this working hooks. It doesn't work that well. Straight lines, so what you're trying to do is get all his attention on your straight line attacks, so he's looking at them, and then when you're ready, you step out and you go to the side. Right, so let's just look at that step out quickly. Essentially what I did was this. If Nuno's in front of me there, and you'll see when we go back to the camera, as I step out, I already turn my foot towards Nuno, so I'm saving some time, okay? I don't want to step out with my foot facing there because then my body's moving that way and I still have to turn it back to come towards him. I want to make sure that when I step out, I'm already in front of him and I'm firing my combination. Okay, so using my straight attacks to get out, boom, there, on the angle, fire the strikes, okay? Going the other way is a little bit harder, still manageable though. If I want to go there and moving there, I step with my back foot first and then I pull my front foot. So watch again. Step, pull, get the angle. Okay, so going forward, step out but turn towards him, pull my back foot back, fire my combination. Going the other way, pushing forward with my hands, step and pull my front foot and get the combination. So on that one, you use that forward pressure, jabs and crosses going forward, get the guy to focus on the jabs and crosses. That's where his mental focus is going to be, you know, put a little bit of pressure on him, and then as you get that, you move off and you're on the side, bam, 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 and you take whatever he gives you. Now, of course, it's really important. There's no such thing as a strategy that can't be countered and the guy's just going to stand there. So I might get on the side, just stand still, offload, 1, 2, 3, boom, and he's back and square. That's why as an angler I'm playing it throughout the round. Now I'm back again, maybe now I'm attacked by drawing, get another angle again, coming back, and I'm playing between the different strategies. It's not like you're going to go like this, get off, he's going to stay there, not turn back, and you're just going to fire away. Okay, he's a real opponent, he fights back. He will turn, and then you're back and you're playing a game. It's just a strategy that you use as you develop your angling style.
In this example, Nuno with the black gloves is using his jabs and crosses and forward pressure to get the angle so he can attack.
Okay, third strategy now for the angler. One of the things you'll notice as an angler is that you have to have really good footwork. And one of the things that's really important as an angler is to have a very good circle step. And the circle step actually comes from Muay Thai. So if you've ever trained Muay Thai before and you've learned when you get into the plumb position, you get his neck and you're firing knees and then you get taught to spin him around and then fire knees again, it's essentially the same idea. It's the same footwork that's happening. So on a circle step, when I say quick initiation on the circle step, is that essentially I'm always moving my circle. I'm always moving that circle. That's really important. So this is more of a concept right now. I know we did that when I said, okay, push forward with your hands and then circle out. I also did it when I did attack by drawing and then circle out. But it's something you really, really want to focus on. And obviously you can train that on its own. So put that in shadow boxing. If you work in the heavy bag, work in the heavy bag and just really getting good at working those circle steps. Now, circle steps can happen in two ways. One, I can move towards Nuno and circle and get an angle. Or I can let Nuno come to me and I step back and I circle. So essentially, my circle steps are either moving forward or they are moving backwards. And when I move it backwards, all I did was I just stepped and pulled my foot back, right? So watch again. I went like this. Okay, I'll do it slowly. I went step to get out the way and pull my foot back. One more time. Step and pull my foot back. Now I'm on the side, right? Going forward, I'm stepping forward and pushing forward with my body. Going backwards, I'm going step, pull. Now, reversing that around, going to the rear. Going forward, I have to step towards him, because obviously I need to gain distance. I step towards him and I do what? I pull my foot up, and then I get the angle. If I want to do this one going backwards, it's pretty tough, but as Nuno comes in, I just pull my foot backwards. So instead of stepping forward now, all I did was I went backwards and pulled my foot. Okay, so one more time. Going this way, I go step, pull. Okay? Going backwards, I go step back, pull to get the side. Okay? Going forwards on this way, I'm going step, pull. And going backwards, I'm going step back, pull to get the angle. So it's really important. What that tells you is that, hold on, as an angler, I can get angles, not always just going forward. I can also get an angle when this guy pushes forward. And that's going to be important when you do the attack by drawing, because a lot of times when you're doing attack by drawing, you're moving back to get an angle. And when you're using your jabs and crosses, you're pushing forward to get an angle. So that's the third strategy you want to add in.
In this example, Nuno with the black gloves is waiting for Costa to strike and then using that opportunity to get the circle step. At other times, Nuno uses his strikes or counter strikes in order to get the circle step to get on the side of Costa to attack and counter attack.
Okay, so fourth and final strategy for the angler. This time around you're using your feints and false attacks again. So, because this is already on the DVD, I'm not going to re-coach the feint and false attacks, they're already there, but we're just going to look at it from an angler's perspective. So, what do I mean by that? So, for example, when I did the false jab, when I went jab, jab, pretend push, I'll use that to get on the side, all right? So, I would go 1, 2, boom, and then get on the side, and remember he would re-square, and then we'd be back and we'd be playing sparring match, okay? On the hook, that works really well, so I would go 1, 2, boom, now I'm on the side. So I'd really thrust my body so I get right on the side of Nuno. And a lot of times when that happens off that hook, when I go there, the body is open and you go into the body. 9 times out of 10. Okay, using your feint attacks. So remember, I might pretend to go high, to go low. So I'll do the exact same thing. I'll go, yeah, I pretend, boom, but then I use that to get my angle. Okay, all right. Or if I'm pretending to go low to go high, I might be out here, pretend to go low, go high, and then use that to get my angle. Okay, now what Nuno's doing, because obviously we're trying to just build it so you can see it, but it happens a lot of times. When you do like feints and false attacks, a lot of people almost stop their tracks for a split second, you know, and as they do that, that's your opportunity. You know, so you're hoping that you get this apprehension. He goes, whoa, what was that? You know, so when I go jab, and I go, and he goes, whoa, what was that? And as he's thinking that for that split second, I'm on the outside and I'm hitting from that angle. So that's the next strategy, more of a concept again, I guess, but essentially the idea is that you want to use your feints and false attacks to get on the outside. You're still using your steps now. We covered all of those. So stepping out, pulling back, working all of those things. You're going to find 9 times out of 10, when you're using feints and false attacks, it's a forward driving motion. You won't necessarily be doing this going backwards.
In this example, Nuno with the black gloves uses feints and false attacks in order to get the angle, to get on the side of K to both attack and counter attack. All right, so to finish up the angler, let's just look at a recap quickly of those 4 strategies that you want to build on. All right, so first thing was you want to make sure that you use your forward striking of your hands as you're pushing forward to get that angle to move out. That was one strategy. All right. The other strategy was that you would use attack by drawing, so you would purposely create an opening to get an angle. And remember, let's just look at that again. Really important. When I'm using the forward pressure, that's exactly what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to pressure Nuno to move a little bit back so I can jump out and get the angle. On the attack by drawing, I'm letting him come to me as I step out. So I'm letting him come to me. That's a very, very important point. It'll make all the difference in getting that thing to work. Okay? The other thing was, you've got to make sure that you have quick initiation on those circle steps so you get used to it. So you should practice that even if you're not getting the counter or getting the attack. So even when I'm out here and we're playing around, and let's say we're moving around, and we're just moving around like that, nothing stops me as we move around just to play that. I don't even have to hit back, but it's important that I put that in. And then the last strategy that we looked at was using your feints and your false attacks to get the angle. So now you were using those false attacks to get out, all right? Or you were using your feints, you know, pretending to go high, then go low, and then go off to the side. Okay, again, on that one, there's going to be a lot of forward kind of motion from your side if you're the angler when you try to get those specific tactics. In this example of the angler style sparring, Nuno with the black gloves is using the angler style against Costa with the white gloves, putting all 4 strategies together that we covered on the DVD for the angler style. Welcome to this section on the counter striker. Counter strikers like to hit off their opponent's strikes. They also often wait until the opponent has striked before they attack. They like to use deceptive tactics, like purposefully creating openings on themselves, enticing the opponent to go for the opening and then countering. Counter strikers tend not to use too much footwork, as they need stability to counter punch effectively. They also don't pressure a lot. Their optimal range is the rim shot range, where an opponent is forced to come to them. In fact, that's what they want.
Okay, now we're looking at the counter striker style of sparring or fighting. The first strategy is really more of a conceptual strategy, so it's just so you understand really what we talk about counter strikers. And the one thing that counter strikers try to do wherever possible is they like to hang back, wait for their opponent to hit them so they can counter. So essentially the idea would be that, again, doesn't mean that a counter striker is not putting out strikes, but one of the things that he's watching for is he's waiting for, like for example, if I was a counter striker and I'm waiting for Nuno to hit me so I can counter. Okay? So when I just say like hanging back and waiting to counter, a lot of times when I do that, it tends to be one or maybe two strikes when I do that. So I'm hanging back, Nuno hits, boom, and I just hit him once and then I move around. Okay, playing around, hit him once, move around. So I'm waiting for him to strike me. So that's really an essential thing in the counter striker. You don't want to just wait for the guy to plow into you. You want to make sure that as he's coming forward and he's hitting, that you try and put a strike in, wherever that opening is. Now, of course, in counter striker, like in anything else, you can use a little bit of angles, you can move around, but essentially you want to wait until he comes in. When he hits, you counter strike. So that's more of a concept. You want to keep that in mind. When you're sparring and you want to play the counter striker, one of the things you're definitely waiting for is you're waiting for the guy to come in, you're waiting for him to hit, and as he hits, you're going to work off his punches.
In this example, Nuno with the black gloves and grey shorts is hanging back, waiting for Kay to attack so that Nuno can counter strike into the openings that Kay creates.
Looking at strategy number 2 now for the counter striker, this is really the meat of what it is to be a counter striker. It's probably the most important strategy that you want to develop. Here's the thing. What often happens is you see people when they spar in the beginning, and even guys who have been sparring for quite a while, they tend to play what I call a tennis match sparring game. What that means is Nuno comes in with a combination, I defend, when he stops, then I come back and I fire a combination. Now, it could be anything, right? He could throw one punch and I defend, and then when I see he's not doing anything, I come back. And so basically it's a give and take. It's 1 for 1. We keep going back and forwards. That's really good, but the problem is though, as he develops his defense, it's going to be pretty difficult for me to get in, especially if he's got CM, because he's going to be able to block all those lines, he's not making mistakes, he's not sticking his hands out, right? Because as Nuno's really tight there, okay, just defend Nuno. Nuno's really tight, okay? It's going to be hard for me just to score just in a basic combination. I'm going to have to do other stuff. So in a counter striker, the hallmark of the counter striker is that you never wait for your opponent to finish his combination before you counter strike. You're actually hitting into it. This takes a lot of training. You have to have somebody that has respect when you play around with this, so you know that you're not going to get hurt, because you will make mistakes and you will get caught. That's just part of it. But let me give you an idea of what I mean by that. So instead of me standing in front of Nuno, let him fire a combination and I wait until he finishes, as he fires, I'm hitting. Now, there's a lot going on there that you can't see. I'm making really subtle adjustments with my body as I move around, okay, small little movements. I'm not just standing in front of Nuno, he fires shots, and I just fire back. That's not what I'm doing. I'm actually moving a little bit and trying to create just a little bit of slight angles and hit him in the opening lines. So again, the idea, the most important strategy for counter-striker is you're going to hit off your opponent's punches. That's what it means to hit off your opponent's punches, meaning that you're not going to wait until he finishes the combination. While he's firing, you are hitting back. Now, it wouldn't matter, for example, if he just threw a jab and I hit off his jab, then I carried on with my combination. That's great. If he came in and he worked a proper combination and I hit, that's fine. What else can I do there? I could, like I did now, is I defended the first one and then I started hitting. Maybe I defend the next ones as they come in, then I start hitting. But essentially, the idea is I'm keep trying to counterattack while his hands are still out there, right? Because this is the thing. When your hands are back and you're really tight and you're defending, you're in good position. Anytime you let your hand go away from your face, something has to open, right? So, for example, even if Nuno does a perfect jab, right? Everything's great, can't get his head this side, but his body will be open, even if it's for a brief second. So, as the counter striker, the only way that I can get to those places is by hitting off his strikes, off his combination. Because if he punches and then I wait, it's already closed. But as he punches, boom, if I start counter-striking as he's hitting, I'm still able to catch those shots. So that's probably the most important strategy for counter-striker. It takes a lot of practice. It's more a mental thing than anything else because naturally you don't want to get hit. So what you start doing, you maybe do it once or twice and then you start flinching and pulling your head away. You have to develop the confidence. Really important, when I'm doing this, I'm keeping really tight. I'm pulling my stomach in, my shoulders are up, I'm protecting my face, and I'm counter-striking off there. So I'm leaving little openings. And again, don't be afraid to make subtle adjustments, move your body, create space. So we'll just look at it one more time. We'll just go super slow now. When I mean subtle adjustments, see how I move there, then I move back maybe, and I play around. So as Nuno's trying to hit me, I am looking for those spaces. And I'm creating space myself. I know right there I got a little bit of a longer reach. So what I did was I pulled myself back away from him to get my counter striking. Really important strategy, something you want to develop.
In this example, Nuno with the black gloves and grey shorts demonstrates the hallmark of counter-striking. The hallmark of counter-striking is to use your combinations and counter-strike into the opponent's incoming combinations.
Okay, the third strategy that a counter striker can use, it's something that pressure also uses, is cutting into the opponent's punches. So we're back to this again, but a little bit of difference, right? Again, as a counter striker, what I like to do here is I like to hang back. I like to hang back, let this guy come to me. The more frustrated he gets trying to hit me, the more kind of pressure he puts on me, I'm hoping that the more mistakes he makes. So on the pressurer style, when I did a cut, I used the cut as an entry. So when Nuno threw the cross, I entered with that and then I kept blasting going forward using the pressurer style. On the counter striker style, I'm using the cut, boom, but then I just counterattack from the outside range. I'm not necessarily pushing forward. But again, as you'll hear when we discuss in just the understanding of what this whole DVD is about, you'll hear me often say that you always put two styles together. There's never just a predominant counter striker. So for me, I'm a counter striker and a pressurer, so a lot of times I will hang back, use that cut, and then enter. So I counter strike, I hang back, I wait, I hit into his punches, I didn't wait till it finished. Okay, as I got that, depending on what reaction I got, if I got the reaction I wanted, he did that, boom, then I'm going to move forward. Maybe I go in, I don't get there, he keeps coming back, and now I'm hanging back and I'm playing more of a counter striker, waiting for him to come in and try and hit off his punches. So using the exact same thing, except you're hanging back, he's just play a little bit quickly, Mitch. So Nuno's playing a little bit, then he comes in, boom, and then maybe I move around now, okay, or next time as he comes in, boom, and then I throw the combination, move around. Well, after that, as he comes in, he fires a combination, and I'm hitting into his combination, so I'm using it, and I move around like that. So again, cutting into it's a really good strategy for the counter striker.
In this example, Nuno with the black gloves and grey shorts is using the cutting action to get the counter strike. Using that cutting action first and then uses that opportunity to work the rest of his combination.
All right, now we're looking at the fourth and final strategy for the counter striker. This is a similar thing that the angler did, but with a different kind of idea behind it. When we did attack by drawing in the angler style, what we did was we used attack by drawing to get an angle, to get off on the side. The counter striker is actually going to use that opening to blast really hard shots from there. So for example, he's not going to use a lot of angles right now. He'll be hanging back, playing a game. Maybe he raises up high, Nuno goes for it, boom, and he's going to hit a hard one. So essentially what I'm doing is, in my head, I'm saying, okay, I'm going to open up the body, let him go to the body, but I'm going to give him one back to the head. Okay? Again, nothing stops me as a counter striker, boom, and then come back and work a combination. But now I'm using my attack by drawing to pull him in, and when he goes for that shot, I'm going to score. On the second one here, when I go low, this is actually a really cool technique. I call it the rising jab. It's a great way to jab, and it's unorthodox, so it catches a lot of people off guard. The idea behind the jab is that when I do this, just pull your hand back, Mitch, is I'm turning my hand like this, and I'm actually hitting with this part of my glove. So I'm inverting my hand, and I'm hitting upwards. So it is, for me, still a jab, because I do it out of a jabbing action, and then I hit. What I'm trying to aim for is I'm trying to hit Nuno's sternum and let this thing keep on going and pull his head up. And it's really, really devastating and effective because, you know, just like an uppercut, when you catch somebody underneath the chin, when you go uppercut, that's when you get knockouts because it's that kind of ricochet action, that knocking action in your head that tends to knock you out. The same thing's going to happen on a rising punch. So instead of hitting him straight on a jab, I'm coming underneath, bam, and I'm hitting it. Now, I can do that successfully as a counter striker when I have my hand down and Nuno goes for the bait, goes for my head, boom, and I hit him. Right, now again, the thing is to take note of there is, as Nuno did that, if I get him under the chin, boom, and his head goes up, my next shot's coming straight in. And the one thing you have to focus on all the time when you're sparring is to keep consistent head movement, meaning that you want to keep your chin down, your head locked in as best as possible, especially when the guy's hitting hard. I mean, when you're out here, you can relax, but once this guy steps in, you have to close things up. It's really, really important. Don't take risks. So in this kind of example is that if I get underneath Nuno's chin, that second shot is probably even more devastating than the first one, of course, but that second shot is probably going to knock him out, and you have to be really, really careful of that. And again, when I'm playing around with this, even in sparring, I'm super careful, and I don't purposely go and try and knock somebody out with that shot because it could really hurt him, because he's in a really vulnerable position with his head leaned back like that. Besides the fact that if I make a mistake, I could catch him in the throat, so I want to watch out for that as well. So the idea is I'm hanging low, I catch him, boom, as he comes in, boom, there, and then I come in. Okay, so moving around, hanging low, bam, and come back in. So I'm driving up. As I drive up, most important thing, chin tucked behind my shoulder. As I come up, I hit him underneath the chin, and then obviously you can follow up. Okay, so the idea in the fourth strategy is that you're using attack by drawing, so he goes to that open line. When he goes to that open line, you are going to hit him where he's open. So that's the most important thing. When he goes low, even though he's getting the low shot, I'm hoping that by going low, he's left his head open a little bit. And even if he didn't, it's definitely going to be a good counter strike to set up the rest of my combination. Same thing here. I drop low, so when he goes to my head, I'm hoping to get underneath so I can come back and follow with my combination. So that's the fourth strategy for the counter striker that you want to put in. Use your attack by drawing to counter strike into the opening line.
In this example, Nuno with the black gloves and grey shorts is using attack by drawing and getting K to go for the opening and using that opportunity to counter strike.
Okay, let's look at the final recap here for the counter striker, just going over those four strategies and what you're trying to achieve. Right, first thing is, as a counter striker, you're not going to necessarily have a lot of forward motion. You're going to be hanging back a little bit. You're waiting for the guy to come in so you can hit him, right? You could do those with single or double shots, but essentially you're hanging back and you want to hit him wherever the line opens. And that could be anything. He goes to my head, I go to his body. That's still counter striking. The next kind of strategy is, and this is where it all comes together, is you want to hit off his combination. So you firing a combination while he's firing his, and you're making subtle adjustments with your body, your space, and your distance to your opponent and your defense in order to score. It catches a lot of people off guard because most people don't necessarily expect this. Like I said, most people get into a habit of doing their tennis match sparring, right? So he spars, blah, 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 defend, and I come back, and this is back and forwards thing. He doesn't expect, as he fires, for me also to be hitting, okay? And actually, again, it has a psychological advantage that happens quite a lot when you do this, is that as he's firing a punch and you start coming in, one or two things happen. Because he sees the punches come in, he doesn't realize that he starts pulling his hands back and actually takes his hands away. So he shortens the distance between myself and him. The other thing that often happens is, on guys who are less experienced, is that as you start putting that pressure on, they're going to turn and do this. So as Nuno's punching and I start coming, they feel those shots and they start turning away, which is obviously great for me. The other thing that you want to do is you want to use your attack by drawing, right? So you're purposely creating openings and then you're going to go for it. Purposely creating openings, boom, to counter-attack in. That's really important as well. The fourth and final strategy of the counter-striker was to cut into the opponent's punches. Remember, a little bit different to the pressurer. Pressurer uses it to enter and then get power strikes. Counter-striker hangs back and then uses that to counter off, right? So you're hanging back a little bit more and you're trying to stay on the full extension of your jab and crosses where they do the most damage. So those are the 4 basic strategies to develop your counter-striker style.
In this sparring example of counter-striker, Nuno is putting all 4 strategies together that we covered on the DVD for counter-striker.
The idea of the fight compass is to expand your awareness of sparring. It's also to make sparring a lot more exciting and playful, in the sense that you want to play with different things. And in the beginning, it's kind of frustrating when you work on things that you're not really good at. But it's a great experience when you actually try a different style that's not really you and it doesn't define who you are and it's not your strength. And even though you may not come out the other side doing really well that night, that experience of just having to deal with the pressures and the stress is a wonderful experience, because obviously when you're playing your A game, when you're playing the game that you're really good at, what you tend to find is that you will find, for example, that your mental game is probably at its highest level and you're totally focused. When you play something that's totally against what you normally do, like for me, I'm not a runner, and if I play a runner, immediately not only do I have to deal with the physical game, because that's not my strength, but I have to deal with an emotional and a mental shift that comes into play. That's a great opportunity right there for me to work on my developing my focus better, developing my arousal regulation so I don't get stressed out, because immediately when I'm playing runner and somebody's getting the better of me, I want to do what? I want to switch back, I want to go back to my pressure style because I know that that's where I can win. And it also teaches you humility, your ability to hold back and not always play to your strengths. Although, when do you play to your strengths? You play to your strengths when all things matter. When do things matter? When I'm out on the street and I have no other choice and I have to defend myself or defend my family, I'm going to play to my strengths. I'm going to be a pressure counter-striker all the way. That's what I'm going to do. But in the gym, I want to learn something about myself. And one way to learn something about yourself is to take your strengths away at times and play your weaknesses, because it humbles you and it teaches you respect. And it teaches you to appreciate the other side, so you can understand what other people are struggling with. And from a coaching perspective, it's really important. If I might not be a runner, but I still need to be able to coach that to students, to clients, to people that come into my gym or athletes that I train. So it's important that I understand that part of the game as well. So at least when I'm talking to them, I'm talking from experience, because I've been there and I've played that game. Yeah, absolutely. It's like a game, isn't it? It's like playing it's a kind of PlayStation, really. Yeah, you don't need hundreds of people in order to make this work. What you can do is you can designate people on different nights. You can say, look, you know what, tonight, you're going to play runner and I'm going to play counter-striker. So we can have an opportunity to do that. And we can say, okay, after 2 rounds of us doing that, let's switch up, right? So now you're the counter striker and I'm the runner. So, and again, just those 4 strategies gives us a kind of a place to step from, a place to work from. So you can say, well, I can easily say to you, okay, Nuno, play runner. And you go, well, what must I do in order to play runner? Well, I can say to you, the 4 strategies we covered, that's all I want you to play for this round. So that at least you have a starting point. Now, again, to reiterate, I'm not saying that there's only 4 things that you need to do in order to become an effective runner. Those are only 4 basic strategies, your starting block. It's like the stuff that I know that people can get basically from day one. As you play that stuff, you go, oh, but I can also do this, I can do that, and absolutely, that's how you develop it. So, yeah, that's a good observation. You can absolutely have less people, but have more fun sparring and more opportunities to learn, because instead of just having a bunch of guys on the mat just going free for all with no real purpose, you can create purpose within the training studio, within the gym, and say, okay, we're going to work specifics. Tonight we're all going to work different styles, and we're going to designate these group of people are going to be X, and this group of people are going to be, A, and then we're going to spar against each other, and then we're going to switch up half time, so we all get to play different strategies and different styles. So there's 2 things there, is that, again, it's very, very hard to predict a sparring match, right? Like I said before, and when I think about sparring, I think about it as chaos in action. When we're dealing with a human being who is not going to tell us what he's going to do. Oftentimes, most people don't know what they're going to do next until they actually do it. So you're dealing with this chaos environment where, even though you trained all the techniques and all the counter strikes or the counter strategies, the bottom line is you still have to pull it off against this chaotic opponent who is highly, highly unpredictable. So by following the fight compass, kind of the map of the fight compass, and breaking it down into the 4 predominant styles, and then looking at the variations, and then from there, looking at the strategies you can use, you kind of try and almost calm the chaos down a little bit. You try and make it a little bit more predictable, which gives you more time and opportunity to pull certain strategies off that maybe you wouldn't have been aware of at all before. So in that way, again, it comes back to the concept that I always talk about, where you're surfing the edge of chaos. It's not like chaos has disappeared, but it's like you're riding the wave. You're able to catch the wave in the right spot. The wave is still there, it's not going away, but you're not falling off the board. So that's really what you're trying to do when you work out the fight compass. Without the fight compass, without that roadmap, a lot of times it's like you're fighting an uphill battle. You're going against the stream. You're not entirely sure what to do next. It's frustrating. You maybe think it's just purely because you don't have enough time on the mat, or it's your jab sucks, or whatever it is. And a lot of times that may not be the case. It may be that you're just not understanding the strategy. It might be, for example, that you're trying to be a pressurer, but you're playing a runner strategy. If that makes any sense. It's like you're doing the opposite to what you should be doing. So when you understand, okay, this is kind of what I do, or at least what I like to do, so this is how I need to play it into the game. This is how it's going to be for a pressure, this is how it's going to be for a runner, this is how it's going to be for an angler, this is how it's going to be for a counter striker, and obviously if I have a variation of it, that makes it even stronger. No, absolutely. I mean, the fight compass came about from analysis. I mean, what I started doing was I found that, I was coaching people sparring, and I was saying, don't do this, don't do that. If you must always try and circle off whenever you can, don't back up in a straight line. I was kind of talking about all these basic concepts that make you into a really good boxer, so it enables you to spar effectively. But what I found was that I just wasn't getting through. No matter how much I try to drive these basic concepts home, I was kind of falling short. So an idea came to me and said, well, if I could start defining the game a little bit better, and if I could look at it in style. So if I could say to them, well, look at how you move. And the way you move and the way that you spar defines you as X style. So you're a runner. These are the kind of things that you want to develop, and this is why you don't want to do this, and this is why you want to do that. You're going to find it much easier and more effective in developing your sparring style. And I found that made a lot of sense to people. And the fight compass is not a complicated process. You can go and you can watch a host of boxing matches, anything on ESPN, wherever you watch boxing, watch some of the all-time greats, and look at what they do, and you can identify them using those things. Is that, right now, maybe when you start drilling it in the beginning, you have to consciously think about all this stuff. That's just the way it is. Even when we demonstrate it in the DVD, it's pretty difficult to demonstrate it like that, because, you're trying to break it down, and for lack of a better word, when you spar, it's chaos. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to harness the chaos. You're trying to surf the edge of chaos always. And so even though in the beginning you consciously drill these things, you say, okay, I'm going to do attack by drawing, and this is what I need to do. I'm going to play feints. Down the line, the ultimate objective is for you to switch off your brain and allow the experience that you've basically gained, which has been embodied inside your body, to come forward. And so you don't in a sparring match say, oh, I'm going to do attack by drawing now, or I'm going to try and cut this guy's punch. That's not how it works. It comes out of the embodiment of the process of learning all these specific techniques and drilling them. So in the beginning, you've got to drill them. That's the tough part. That's the frustrating part. That's the part where you don't get things right and it doesn't always go the way that you would want them to go. But ultimately, as you drill them more and more and more, and you hone those skills down and you embody it, when you spar and it's chaotic and you can't predict what the opponent's going to do, you're going to be able to surf that edge of the chaos and you'll be able to pull out the right strategy at the right time. And the only way that you're going to be able to do that again is that if you're coming in and you're sparring with people that have good respect, that want to go light, that are there to learn, and are not there to dominate the environment. Because if it's just about beating each other up, what you're going to find is you're not going to get very far. One, you're going to suffer from headaches. You're not going to come back. Two, nobody wants to get beaten night after night and get hurt. You want to have time to play this game. So you have to have mutual respect. But the strategy itself, the techniques that we talk about in the DVD is not really that difficult. What is difficult is sustaining the momentum, is keeping those things going over time. You're going to have to practice it for a considerable amount of time. You're going to have to play with it. There are going to be lots of frustrating moments. There are going to be times when it doesn't work the way you want it. Then you're going to get it right, and then it won't work again for the next 10 times. That's just the way it is. That's how sparring is. And then at some point, it's going to switch over to your body, and your body's going to take over, and you're going to be able to just play that game. And that's kind of where I am at right now. You're just playing this game all the time and playing these different styles and looking at it from that perspective, just gives me a map. It's like, I know, okay, there's a map here. I'm not just blindly walking into a match and sparring with somebody and not really being able to define. I can, within the first 30 seconds, kind of, pretty accurately, even before that, say, okay, this guy's a pressurer, or this guy's a runner, or he's a runner that's using an angling style. So he's combining those two together. And then because I've played those styles, I know the kind of basic strategy he's going to use, and so then I can use counter strategy to get around him and obviously be victorious in the match. Absolutely. One of the things that I'm always comfortable with in my game is that I'm able to always switch between different styles, which is, I think in itself is just unique, and it's one of the things because I've always put myself in that position to always say to myself, look, don't play the same game over and over, even though you may be winning, because you want to be versatile and you want to develop a broad spectrum of game. Why do you want to do that? Well, one of the things that happens to me a lot is, and obviously it's the great part of my job, is that I get to travel around the world and I get to spar different people, hundreds of different people, sometimes in a year. And, your predominant style doesn't always work, right? Some things neutralize it. So, for example, as a pressurer, the worst thing for me is somebody who runs, because a runner has the neutralizing quality in order to counter a pressurer, especially if he's really good at the running style and he's got enough space to play with. So one of the best ways for me to understand that runner and for me to beat them more easily is to do what? Is to play the runner style. So yes, the fight compass is about finding your strength. So you look at the fight compass and you go, well, you know what, I've never looked at sparring in that way. I've never looked at it from that perspective. And I never thought that, there's different kinds of styles of fighters. And if I think about it, yes, what I am is I'm a pressure counter striker. That's what I'm really good at. And obviously I want to hone that. I want to be really good at that. But I also want to spend a good amount of time working on my weak areas because I want to manage them. It's not that, I know for a fact that I will never be a good runner in sparring, no matter how much I train it. I've done a lot of time on it, and it kind of just stays the same. I'm never going to be a great angler, but I know that the minute I start putting time and effort into my pressure and my counter-striking styles, they immediately start getting better because that's just my strength. That's something I'm really good at, and it makes sense to spend at least 80% of my time working that. The other 20% is just to involve myself in the other styles, to learn more about them, and also just to kind of manage that because that would be my weakness. So I want to manage it, but I'm always going to play for my strengths because that makes a whole lot of sense, and that's how you win.
Now that we've come to the end of the second Fight Compass DVD, one of the questions I often get asked while I'm traveling around the world and coaching the Fight Compass at seminars is, what style counters what style? And this is really the secret, and it's one of the things that I want to cover in depth in follow-up DVDs to the series. But essentially, and in simple terms, the pressurer generally counters an angler. The angler counters a runner. The pressurer again counters a counter striker, and the runner counters a pressurer. So just on that basic idea, you can kind of figure out what you need to do in order to counter the specific styles. Another way to look at it is, if you look at that a pressurer counters an angler, so if you're faced with an angler and he's predominantly using those four major strategies, or just using the angler style in general, you need to make sure that you have the pressurer style down and that you can effectively utilize it. This is one of the reasons why I advocate, and that it's really important, that you train all four styles, major styles of sparring, and that you hook that into your game and really try and play those wherever possible, so that when you are faced with different opponents with different styles, that you have the understanding and the backing in order to defend and defeat them.